women's football dropping news every week about something different or something new that's going to be emerged or something that's being considered and discussed. Listener Layla has messaged us on Instagram saying, a 7-a-side competition. Thoughts of why, who, what and where. So
should we take that one at a time?
Yeah, let's. So just to give some context to this, Layla's referring to the new global women's 7-a-side football tournament called World Sevens Football, which is set to launch ahead of the Champions League final in May, and it will also be held in Portugal. So it consists of 8 professional clubs, top global players, and a $5 million prize pot. The competing clubs are yet to be announced. I mean, Rach, what do we make of the timing? What do we make of the announcement of this competition first? The what?
There are pros and cons, I think, to this.
Okay.
I'm always open to trying new things.
Love it.
We've talked a lot about we don't have to go down the same path as men's football. This is an example of something different. Mm-hmm. We don't know whether it'll work or not until it's tried, right? So, it could expose the game to new fans. It could be, I imagine they're looking at the sevens in the Olympics, for example, which was, selling out stadiums, mm-hmm. hugely impactful. You then saw the likes of Ilona Maher going to Bristol Bears and what an impact that had and how they had a huge number of new fans coming to the game. So I'd say they looked at that and thought this could be a new thing to try. I think the fact that so many ex-players and people involved in women's football are involved in this gives it some, in terms of legitimacy and maybe a little bit more confidence that player welfare is considered when they're doing this. However, my issue with it is I don't understand why now, why
the
this
timing
is my hang up, because you've got players who, I appreciate if you're in the Champions League final, the clubs won't be involved. But if you're in the FA Cup final, for example, you're then going to have this the following week. And then the following week, you'll be in camp for England or for your national team. And you probably won't come out of camp. You might get a weekends off, but running up to the Euros, you're unlikely to get much time off. So that's a bugbear of mine. And I understand that there's going to be different ones, different times of year in different parts of the world, which is brilliant. But why do the first one Europe based ahead of a Euros? That's my bugbear.
A lot of questions there, Rach. A lot of pros and cons being thrown out. And I don't want to accuse you of sitting on the fence, but it is.
I'm going to sit on the fence.
It's yet to be decided.
It's not something that can be determined.
That. Okay.
We don't even know who the bloody teams are.
I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know how the competition is going to sit. Like you said, it is over. It'll just be just over a month before Euro 2025. I can't quite work out whether the clubs are going to be involved are going to choose the players that won't be going to the Euros to kind of give them more of a chance to play and sort of compete whilst that tournament is going on.
Because it is their choice. Because it's not within a UEFA. It's not a UEFA competition. So the
clubs do have a little bit more autonomy over what's going to happen and how they choose to navigate that. So it could be a chance that we see maybe younger players being involved or players who haven't necessarily been getting minutes, or maybe players coming back from injury and sort of like kind of growing their sort of confidence, I suppose, before the WSL season starts again. I do think I can see the benefit in having a competition. Like we saw the same thing with like the 100 and cricket, and kind of introducing a quick, fast way that's going to appeal to maybe, we are a generation of people who like to consume things really quickly. We want to get to the bottom of things really quick. Like that, it is fast. So I get that they're trying to introduce something that's very short, sharp, punchy. It's very kind of it's almost very social first in a way. So I do get that. What I do worry about is that, and I love the fact that women's football is trying things differently, and maybe we do it and it doesn't work for a couple of whatever, fine. But I do also think there's this kind of thing about trying to create like novelty things that kind of detract away from the fact that it's a serious game. Like 11-a-side is like obviously, what the history of like football at the moment. And I do, there's something that kind of feels like I don't want it to be a joke that we just make these kind of, oh, well, actually, we're going to do like a 3-a-side cage thing next year. Or actually, we're going to do, I don't know, games that are played in, I don't know, on the arse end of a mountain. Like, just like things that kind of don't, I get wanting to get new audiences, but there's also something that feels like I don't like overcomplicate it.
Don't
with too many things
from the professionalism
of the game. And especially when there is a lot of risk as well, like you said, about the scheduling. But we have to wait and see. So the tournament format will feature 2 15-minute halves on a field half the size of an 11-side pitch.
And this is the thing people say in response to the scheduling side of things. Oh, well, it's only 7-a-side. Mm-hmm. Squads of 14 on game day. You can bring like your full squad and just pick 14 for game day, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. That is still not a break. You can go as a player, be involved in this camp, not play a minute, and you are not having a rest. You are in camp mode, football mode, training mode. And I appreciate, players aren't going to go off before Euros and go absolutely wild, but they need downtime. Their bodies need downtime. They need the opportunity to switch off mentally. And, maybe clubs will be smart about and let's be real, a lot of these clubs would probably do some sort of stupid, marketing thing where they go off to Australia for a week. Arsenal have done it. Maybe they would do that. But I'd like to think they'll be smart about the players that they choose. But when you think about a lot of these clubs, a lot of them are full of internationals.
Or what were you think? I mean, you made a really good point before the podcast about the types of clubs that we think are going to be involved, because I think there is a balance there. This is a new tournament. They're going to want probably the biggest and the best clubs to be involved, your Man Cities, your Barças and your
Arsenals.
Yeah, like your big clubs to kind of generate that level
fans.
of interest. Like you're going to have to go hard for the first one, especially when you're looking at a $5 million prize pot. Like the only way you're going to get that back and make a return on your investment is if you have people are going to want to go and see, like fly out to Portugal and go and see. So, but at the same time, like you were saying, Rach, I thought it was a really lovely point. Well, what does that mean for the clubs like, your Aston Villas at the moment or your Leicester Cities who don't generate the same level of interest at the moment in the women's game? I mean, it would be a shame. You kind of want those to be involved in it, but realistically, do we think that teams at the bottom of those European leagues will actually get a chance to compete?
But not just European leagues across the world. Like, I don't want it to, I hope it doesn't end up into being some sort of favoritism thing where you just get the best clubs every time. Because then how are you generating the interest in these other clubs? And I guess spreading the wealth a little bit as well, because otherwise it's just the rich clubs getting richer. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how teams get picked. Will it be spread out? Will it be the same teams from the same leagues when they come back to Europe or wherever they choose to go? I mean, they've said there's going to be a USA team involved, I believe, in this one. Can
you imagine though, like you see a world in which Chelsea's competing in this competition, they win the Champions League, they win the League Cup, they win the league, like as in like the Subway League Cup final, they win the League, they win the FA Cup, and then they win the World Cup, this World Sevens, and then they also win $5 million in prize money.
It's 2.5 million, I think, isn't it, to the actual team? It's not that that's entirely less.
But like, in what world is that going to improve the competitiveness of women's football? Given a team like your Arsenal, like your Chelsea, $5 million extra or 2.5 million, like it's sus.
But then also I'd say that that's also the job of your federations and stuff, is to create that competition elsewhere, and whether that's another European competition for teams further down the table, that's a way of doing it. This is a private, I suppose, investment into a smaller tournament, and it's an invitational, so clubs are invited to come,
For sure.
But yes, I do hope that the kind of invites, it's not just an elite party that you can't come in with trainers. Like, I hope that the invites get spread around a little bit and everyone has a chance.
No, for me, I was always for like a Europa League type format where you have like the lower league teams of the year, like get that kind of chance. But this feels like something additional to that.
Yes,
so,
and a bit elite.
Well, I would say so.